we were talking about potential winners of the Final Four. There were 4 guys in the running at that point, and Naito winning seemed to make the most sense and was the right call, and I think that's what they did. I think that we figured the finals would be him and Omega. Tanahashi didn't really seem to have it in him at this point to be put in that spot again, and Okada obviously as the champion. They had already kind of done the Omega-Okada match in the last match of the round robin period, so just given how the blocks were set up. So Naito and Omega made the most sense for it being the finals, and Naito winning I think makes the most sense. Obviously, Omega won last year. He already has that New Japan United States championship, so I think that's got to be kept separate if they're going to try to establish it as something special. So I think that's kind of how they laid it out. I think obviously the way they do things when guys pin other guys that are champions in the round robin period, that ends up kind of giving them opportunities after it as far as title shots go. So guys like Evil gets an opportunity, and maybe Michael Elgin I think beat somebody in there who was a champion. And same thing with Juice, I think, right? He beat Omega. So
Juice and Elgin both beat Omega. So like you said, that lined them up for U.S. title shots.
Yeah. So there's things like that they can go in those directions. So that seems to be the plan. So I guess as of now, it's Naito versus Okada at Wrestle Kingdom in January, and then if anything changes in the next 4 months, that'll obviously alter whatever plans that are in place right now.
Were you happy to see that? Actually, did you see Meltzer's rating for Naito versus Omega?
No.
I wanted to see if he went 8 stars. I wasn't. I don't think he did, but I want to see if he continued to mark for himself over and above. I think the final Omega versus Naito match was better than the Omega versus Okada 3. I think that was and there were 2 even blown spots in that match, and blown spots, if you will, but they pulled it off. I think Naito went to pile drive Omega through a table, and he kind of missed the table. And he just drilled him on the corner of the table. He cracked his head, and Omega and Naito were on the top rope, and Omega slipped and wound up DDTing Naito on the top of the turnbuckle. It was really just a very strong match. And also on the card, the Young Bucks actually lost their tag team, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles, to Ricochet and Taguchi in a good match. When Taguchi stops doing the ass bump, he's a really good worker. But when he does the ass bump, I don't need that. I don't need any ass from Taguchi. So Ricochet, however, big fan of him. So I guess maybe Meltzer's ratings aren't out for that.
Yeah. Newsletter usually comes out on Wednesday, so it probably just came out today. I haven't subscribed to it in a little while, so I don't know. I don't have access to go in and take a look. I'm sure it'll come out in the next day or two or something like that, as far as what he rated the matches from last weekend, because they would be in this week's newsletter, I believe.
Oh yeah, from last week. Stone Cold Steve Austin made a comment, and want to hear your thoughts. He said, if Omega's going to go to the WWE, the time is now, because he's 30, I think 33, 34 years old. But his style, if he keeps wrestling his style at the rate he's going, he's not going to be able to do it for that much longer. And he says his time is now, because he can, quote-unquote, go in there and work circles around the WWE guys, and he wants to slow it down, but he doesn't want to keep working the style. He doesn't want Omega to keep working the style he's doing and take ring years off of his life. I think he actually called them dog years. So is that a statement that you'd agree with? If he's going to do it, he should do it, sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the sooner that you have an opportunity to do that, I think that would be the thing to do. And if you keep wrestling that style that these guys wrestle in Japan,
they just don't have long careers. They just can't.
It wears on you after a while, and you get broken down. So I think that if he's thinking of going, then the sooner he goes, it probably makes the more sense to do so. I mean, his style obviously will change if he went to WWE. So that might extend his career out a little bit. Obviously, he'd be working more dates, but
traveling more probably.
But his style the in-ring style would be a little bit lighter and easier on him, as it has been for all the other guys from Japan that have gone there. So I agree with what he's saying, what Austin is saying, that if he's going to go, and he's obviously got a lot of buzz around his name right now, that he's probably the right time to do it. But I think his contract goes probably at least until next year. So I don't know if he's just going to leave after that, or if he's going to stick around for another year, depending on, I guess, whatever he decides he wants to do.
And whatever, I guess, they do with the IWGP Heavyweight title, too. Dave Meltzer, back to Daddy Meltzer. He made a statement, and I want to hear your opinion on it. He said Friday's match between Omega and Okada would have been match of the year in 18 out of the last 22 matches. And this year, it has trouble reaching the top 10. What do you feel about that?
I think he's a mark for New Japan, and he'll slurp anything that these guys do. Mostly those main guys, like the Okada, Tanahashi, Naito, Omega. And that's his preference. That's his right. I say that all the time, right? Because there's all this, not controversy, or these back and forth on Twitter and out there with people who are, people who are fans of New Japan love everything New Japan, and then other people kind of get on their case for it, and then they just get defensive about it. And the reality of the situation is, and I've said this in other conversations I've had with other wrestling fans, it's you can be a fan of whatever you like, right? Like you can have preferences. If Dave Meltzer is a fan of New Japan and he likes the style and he likes the wrestlers there, that's perfectly fine. Like, you're allowed to do that. But then when people question you about it and say, well, you just like New Japan better, and then he argues back, there's no reason to get defensive about it. He does like New Japan better. That's his preference. Like, so It's okay for you to say that if you want to say that these guys are great or that's your favorite. That's fine. I don't agree with that opinion, but that's okay because that's not my opinion. So he's entitled to think what he wants, but to keep making these bold statements like that, and like how these guys in Japan are bigger draws, and I heard him say something like a couple weeks ago about like where certain wrestlers ranked. I think someone was asking about Sean, and he was like, well, he wouldn't be in the top 3 because all these guys in Japan that no one's ever heard of before. And it's like, all right, dude, just
all time.
Yeah, like calm your business, all right? No one really knows about these guys from Japan wrestling. We're talking, this is American wrestling. We're talking about guys who are the best in-ring workers of all time, and he's got to take a cop and attitude about it just because he likes New Japan better. So that's fine. He can like it all he wants, but I think that's ridiculous to say like, oh, this match is not even in the top 10 this year, but it would have been the best match of the last 18 to 20 years or whatever it is. Meanwhile, I'm sure there's other matches in Japan that have happened over the last couple of years that he was raving about when they occurred too. So, it's all just an in-the-moment thing, I think, for him. He probably watched the matches over the weekend and thought they were
probably
awesome,
watched them live and then gave his live review.
That's fine. I mean, he's entitled to his opinion. I just think he favors New Japan stuff, and he doesn't like to admit that he has a bias towards it. But I don't think there's a problem with having a bias, but you just have to cop up to it. And
I don't know if it's a bias, if it's like a bias or if it's a preference. But if it's his rating system, I mean, the man literally made his own rating system that every professional wrestling fan abides by. So kudos for that, but you're rating it based on your criteria. You're not rating it. There's no international rating committee. Oh my God, that's a good gimmick. We can come up with the international rating committee and we can blow Meltzer out of the water, man. But, Meltzer can give any match he wants to 127 stars because the rating is under his criteria. There's nothing to say it has to hit this many minutes with this many moves, with this many X, this many... it's what he likes. And I do agree with him because I also prefer that more, the stiffer, more like athletic to me... I don't know if athletic is a better word. The stiffer, more realistic feel of New Japan than, the WWE now. But that's not to say that some of the matches in NXT, like the DIY versus the Authors of Pain versus the Revival?
Yeah. Versus
the Revival match wasn't in the top 5. Me match of the year right now, and I would have Omega versus Naito. But number 2, I would have Dunn versus Tyler Bate because I think that's one of the best matches of the year too. To be fair, there aren't many WWE matches I would put in that category, but at the same time, it's like it's almost apples to oranges, and you could rate whatever you want to rate, but since there is no criteria, you can't knock somebody else's opinion. You could say, "Oh, you're such a mark for New Japan," and he could just say, honestly, I prefer the New Japan product, to the WWE product right now. I prefer that style, so I tend to rate those matches higher. Call it a day.
Right.
See that I do prefer, like I said, I do prefer the New Japan stuff. But when there's a great WWE match, there's no reason for him to to doo-doo on the good WWE matches just because it's not the style that he prefers. You still have to give credit where credit is due. And I think you have to be a little more, you don't have to be a little more unbiased. You just have to be a little more respectful, I guess, to everything else going on there. Because nobody's really talking, to be fair, everybody's talking about New Japan and WWE. Nobody's really talking about Impact. Nobody's really talking about Ring of Honor, and they're having some really good matches. The last Impact pay-per-view, Slammiversary, right?
Yeah.
That was a really strong pay-per-view that didn't get any love whatsoever. And we thought the matches top to bottom were really good. And Ring of Honor, I think it's safe to say they're in a little bit of a lull right now. But when they have a pay-per-view and we watch it, every single match is still very consistent. So, I don't know why X always has to be better than Y and better than Z, or this is better than that. You could say you don't like this and you prefer this, and that's completely fine, but just own up to your preference is all.
Yeah.
Like BK. BK doesn't really like the Japan stuff because he likes the showmanship and the glitz and glamour of the WWE, and that's totally cool too. Everybody watches it for a different thing, but the same point, for people can say Kenny Omega's overrated on Meltzer's scale, maybe, sure. But the same people then people could say John Cena's overrated on what scale? So it's just professional wrestling is very, there's no right and there's no wrong if it's all opinions. You're not there's no actually maybe Meltzer is like the Siskel and Ebert. He gives us. I think Meltzer's like the professional wrestling Siskel and Ebert. Who made him that though?
I think part of it is because the opinions obviously are very divided on guys, and the thing is obviously since it's a scripted or a pre-planned sport, right? So they're picking the winners of the matches are obviously selected beforehand, and they just the booker decides whoever it's going to be, right? So you can't really say because John Cena beat AJ Styles means he's a better wrestler than AJ Styles, right? That's where you have the arguments, right? So if you're watching a sport and it's two teams and one team beats the other team, that team is better than the other team because they won the
right.
game and it's a legit contest, right? This is obviously pre-planned. So wrestlers can lose matches, and fans can still say, well, even though AJ Styles lost, he's still better than John Cena because he's a better wrestler in the ring, he's a better promo, like all those things. So you can have those opinions. So it's less cut and dry, I guess, with pro wrestling because of that reason. And that's
same with MMA. If X fights Y and one guy wins, he's the better fighter.
He's the better fighter, right? So but with this, since it's not really done that way, it's predetermined. It opens it up to more people being like, oh, well, I think Sami Zayn should get a push because he's a better wrestler, but they're not pushing him. He's just losing because they don't like him. So I still think he's one of the best in the world. So that's a fair opinion to have. It's just that opinion wouldn't exist in MMA or something. Whereas if he was a real fighter and he was losing all his matches, you couldn't be like, well, he's still good. It's well, no, he's not because he's never wins.
He's 0-5.
So that's I think one of the other things that kind of ties into the whole aspect of who likes who better, and it's a little less cut and dry, and there's more opinions from people who have different preferences.
I also think there's a lot of resentment from internet fans and people towards the WWE because of the WWE style is taking away what could be some more classic matches like AJ versus Kevin Owens, like I said before, at House of Hardcore. It's going to be a lot different than what you're going to see on TV. But, I guess when you're wrestling 300 days, a year, you can't really have vertical drop brainbusters and backdrop suplex and somersault sentons 70 feet into the crowd and stuff like that. So you gotta take it for what it's worth. But that's why I think the WWE is now kind of finding guys that are gonna be really good workers, get over and fit Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole are perfect examples of guys who can wrestle the WWE style and are fantastic wrestlers and don't really have to change their moveset too much to get over. They're both very by the book, very, very clean wrestlers, and they're not going to do, you're not going to see them try to hit a one-winged angel on an apron, and to have a really good match. So that's what's kind of, I just hope with the roster that the WWE and NXT have right now, I think it's safe to say is probably the most potential it's ever had. Right? We just so many guys. You just hope that the WWE continues to let them grow and uses them the right way, because if it's up to Triple H, I don't know, but the future should be bright looking at who is under the WWE banner right now.
Yeah, they just have to, it's just a matter of whether guys translate to the main roster or not when that time comes.
And I think it's a matter of Vince and his micromanaging too. I think that's everybody feels like that's a huge issue, and the way that people get over in NXT isn't the way to get over in the WWE. And I don't know the right way to do it. Do you?
Well, I could explain it, but we don't have enough time left.